Hi, everyone, and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'd just like to welcome you to World Parkinson's Coalition's virtual YOPD program. My name's Jeff Constable, and joining me, I'm the moderator for today, and joining me today is Matt and Shree, who will be speaking about coping with Parkinson's, which is a fairly diverse subject and involves, I believe, another word we might get onto today, and that's about acceptance. We're really pleased that you could join us today. And if you're not already aware, there were 9 talks for the virtual YOPD. This is the last one, so I like to think this is the premier talk, but we'll work that out as we go. Uh, you will be able to watch, if you missed any of the sessions that have been on previously, you can catch up with all those from Monday. They're pre-recorded, so you can have a look at those again. There are 3 uh, focus subject areas. There's individual, which is just classified as, where it's people talking about their experiences with Parkinson's. There's relation, which is talking about relationships and the impact YOPD has. There's medical, that looks at medical management of the condition, particularly for the YOPDs. During the session, if you look down on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll be able to see a box that will allow you to add any questions. Please put any questions in you like. We'll answer any of them the best way we can. Resources, there are no resources for this presentation. This is just a big old talk fest, so enjoy. Lastly, I would like to thank our sponsor, Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma America, who, without their support, we would not have been here today. So thank you very much for that. Okay, let's get started. Before I start, we're going to talk a lot today, and we were talking just before we came on live to talk to you guys, and combined, I worked out the other day, the combined total of years living with Parkinson's for the 3 of us is nearly 90 years. So you can expect, I think that's why we don't have any formal presentation set up, because we have a lot to talk about. So I'm going to open up, and I'll open up with, well, I know he's excited and he's got to get moving on this. So I'll fire off to Matt first. Matt, what does coping? In the early stages of Parkinson's, it's quite different to where you are now. So how did you cope in the early days with being told you had Parkinson's?
Well, first of all, hello everybody, and thanks ever so much, Jeff, for the introduction. It was very difficult for me because I was actually diagnosed in the 1970s. So there was no literature I could access. There was nothing to compare my life with. So to me, it was just a question of dealing with what I had to deal with on a daily basis. It was really, really frustrating because for those of you there'll be many people who don't know my story. I was actually diagnosed on my 7th birthday. Now, I'd like to think on a birthday you'd get a nice present like a bicycle or something. But hey, I got diagnosed with Parkinson's. But to me, it wasn't really, it was a bloody inconvenience, that's for sure, because I couldn't do a lot of the things my friends could do, but there was nothing to compare my life to. It was quite tricky, really. Now it's moved on since then, obviously, Jeff, because now I get to meet so many people who move like me, who kind of look like me, and who understand me. So it's much easier to sort of cope, I guess, if that helps.
Did you find or cope with the diagnosis for your point?
Well, when I was first diagnosed, I had very few symptoms. The only symptom I really had was my left arm would not swing when I walked. And I didn't have a tremor. I didn't have some rigidity or stiffness or anything like that. So the first 2 to 3 years were really easy for me. And I wasn't on any carbidopa levodopa at that time. What I didn't realize, though, is how I progressed, because none of my friends told me when they realized that my face started freezing or my movements became stiff. I wasn't even aware that it was happening. And so when I started taking carbidopa levodopa, it felt like, oh my God, I have my life back. I didn't even realize how stiff I was until I took the medication. And then they would mention to me, oh, Shri, you're moving so much better. What happened? What did you do? And I said, you guys noticed I wasn't moving well before? And they said, yeah. I'm like, well, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you tell me? And their response was, well, we didn't really know what to tell you or how to bring it up. And then we just got used to you.
Yeah, look, for me, it was a lengthy journey to being diagnosed. For me, it was like 6 years of significant mobility issues with Parkinson's that were misdiagnosed during that time. So by the time I was diagnosed, I was pretty annoyed with with life and the medical people for not giving me an answer. I was desperate for an answer. I remember going into the doctors and I was super angry. Like I'd had enough. It was like, I want an answer. I don't care what it is. I just need to know. And then it was concerning afterwards because you sort of didn't know where to go. It was confusing. So I had a diagnosis, and I thought that would help support what I needed to know, but it didn't. It just left me in the wilderness a little bit, I guess. So you spend a lot of, I think everyone, and I'm sure a lot of the audience and people listening today would have experienced the same thing. It's just, you don't know. You think you're going to be able to sort it out, but you really need that time. And I think that's what you've got to remember too. You do need time to find out what you want to do with this and how best to live with it. Yeah.
Jeff, adding to that, I think one of the most frustrating things for me was I I'm s- I've always been super sporty, and I was playing junior rugby, and I'd always been quite quick and physical when I was playing. Even we're talking very junior, so we're talking 5, 6, 7 years old, and all of a sudden I just couldn't keep up with my fellow players. So people would just run past me, or they'd run into me and I'd almost fall over before the contact was even made. And my uncle and my dad, who'd come to watch, were just furious, shouting from the touchline, "Come on, get on with it!" So that was quite a frustrating thing for me. But again, going back to the early symptoms, I had a really frozen shoulder and my neck was killing me. I call it T-Rex arm. My arm kind of went a bit like that, so it's half a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Guys, if you ever see a picture of a Tyrannosaurus Rex and they're like that, you'll see why I call it Tyrannosaurus Rex arm. But that as a young boy was like really quite, and I was walking on tiptoes. And for some reason, my mother always bought me sandals. So I always used to cut my toes because I was tiptoeing, staggering along and tiptoeing. But these are the things that you learn now that probably weren't the best. But my mum, why would my mum have and dad, in fact, have any idea I had young onset Parkinson's at that age? all they knew was I couldn't stand up in assembly. And I actually remember finding in a kitchen drawer a photograph of me, and I just couldn't stand up straight without falling over. And this was also noticed by my headmaster at school and my swimming teacher. And it was just not, I was the same person. I just had to sit down in this school assemblies and things. And that was just my way. I didn't know any other way of coping. That was just me. I hadn't got a clue. It's funny because I never labelled it as a disease. It was just the way I was, you know, at that time. So, but
Yeah.
it was really quite tricky. And my teachers, sorry to go on a bit, my teachers at school never understood. One, my Latin teacher called me dead legs. My history teacher called me skinny legs or donkey legs or whatever because I couldn't keep straight. And I mean, that was just back in the day, that in the 70s, that was just like normal banter at school from teachers. It wouldn't be acceptable now, but looking back, it was quite inappropriate to come.
But, over the years, it's been, it really hasn't progressed that far. It's only, for me, my James celebrated his 21st birthday. James Parkinson's in me. So in October. So, it wasn't until about 10 years ago that I started seeing a real difference in, people's understanding and awareness. They seem to be exactly what you're talking about. You didn't understand and you were accused of being something else other than what you were, sort of thing.
Yeah.
There's another impact. Yeah.
I
So,
think for me,
sorry, Sheree.
I think for me, my journey was pretty easy. I didn't have a lot of the difficulties many people with Parkinson's say that they faced. I mean, in my 20s, I first knew something was wrong in my 20s. I didn't know what it was, but I started researching brain neuroplasticity. And I have all these books that I bought in my 20s, like irritable bowel syndrome, neuroplasticity of the brain, all sorts of books. And in almost every single book I bought, it's Parkinson's disease is mentioned. So that was really like foreshadowing that I wasn't even aware of. Obviously, you can't be aware of foreshadowing, which is why it's called foreshadowing. And then when I had my first non-motor symptoms, my first non-motor symptoms was actually seborrheic dermatitis on my body. I started noticing that when I took a shower and was toweling off, there'd be all this dead skin. And I was like, this is so weird. Is it dirt? What is this? Like, I didn't go trekking in the forest somewhere. I don't know. I didn't know what it was. And then my second motor symptom was I actually was getting, this might be TMI, but oh well. I was at the doctor's getting my leg hair lasered off because let me tell you, I really am thankful for that because shaving when you have Parkinson's is not fun. So I had my leg hair lasered off, and then what would happen is my left arm started twitching. It started going like this, like just spasming over and over and over. And I asked my dermatologist, because I actually had a dermatologist doing the procedure. I asked her, do you know why my arm is doing that? And she had no idea why, she had no clue. And I wasn't diagnosed until about 2 years after that. But they first thought it was fibromyalgia. And then they thought it was ulnar neuropathy. And then they thought it maybe was something to do with carpal tunnel. And what happened is when I pushed my doctor, I didn't actually push my doctor. My doctors have all been very receptive and great. I went to get an ulnar oh my God, my brain. I went to get a test done for carpal tunnel and I got the results back. And when I got the results back, I looked at what it said and it said, these two fingers, I think it was these two fingers that were having the issue, or these two, I don't remember which ones, but 2 out of my 4 fingers were having an issue. And I said to my doctor, my primary care physician, I said, okay, but what about the other 2 fingers? This report only mentions 2 out of the 4 fingers that I have an issue with. What about the other 2? And she immediately referred me to a neurologist. And that was a neurologist who diagnosed me with Parkinson's disease. So once I got to my primary care physician versus going through workman's comp, it all went really well. And when they gave me the diagnosis of ulnar neuropathy and fibromyalgia, the workman's comp doctor, it just didn't feel right. I'm like, no, I don't really know what those are, but it doesn't sound right. And when the doctor said you have Parkinson's disease, the neurologist, when he said that, it felt like, oh, I can relax. I know what this is now. That felt right. It felt right in my gut. And so that's kind of my very brief diagnosis story and how I found out.
Yeah. Well, and I think what we've just spoken about there, it shows we're learning in the early days what Parkinson's really meant, and the frustration we all we all feel, and we don't know, we can't see the forest for the trees. We're just fighting to work and work. But then, hey, where are we now? I mean, Maddie, 50 years later plus, me, 20 something years, Sri, you've got to be in the teens with this, with Parkinson's.
Heading
So,
into the teens, heading into the teens.
yeah, and from what I know from talking with both you two, we're not woe is me people. We don't let
No.
Parkinson's. And so what's the difference now for you guys with living with Parkinson's? So from where transition from those younger days, early days?
I'll go first because Matt is probably going to have a
Oh,
longer.
yeah, go, Sri.
I'm confused and
Yeah,
living with it a lot
I
longer.
made that mistake. I should let you talk first. Yeah.
No, I think for me, when I first was diagnosed, I didn't have a lot of issues. And every issue I saw that my friends have or that I read about, I'm like, oh, I'm so lucky I don't have that. I feel so lucky I don't have that. And I lived in this kind of, I don't want to say delusional state, but this kind of state of altered reality where I thought, it's just not going to get worse. It's not going to progress. I'm totally fine. And so I said, I don't have to exercise. I don't need to eat well. It'll all just work out. And I'm talking to other people with Parkinson's disease. I know that many of them have expressed that they live in that same kind of mental state. And then I started getting all the issues that I thought I would never get. And some people say, oh, I have the rigidity kind of Parkinson's, or I have the bradykinesia kind, or I have the balance kind. And I'm like, well, guys, I got all four kinds. I got balance, I got bradykinesia, I got stiffness and rigidity, and I got tremor. So I'm very lucky in that. And then as the years passed, like I've got more and more symptoms. So when I went from like, nobody could tell that I had Parkinson's to now, if you know what to look for, you can easily figure out that I have Parkinson's. So now I have a lot of dyskinesia, and the dyskinesia is pretty bad because even on a quarter tablet of carbidopa levodopa, if I pill split it in quarters, a 25/100 dose, I get dyskinesia like I'm having right now. So if I take a full dose, I'm doing like this weird version of the crib walk, which is not the most attractive version. I've now have swallowing issues. I have speech issues. I have word recall issues. I have vision issues, very strange vision issues. And being a photographer, those vision issues have impacted my job. So I've had to learn how to work around them. And I'm not bothered by these issues a lot, honestly, because I've just accepted it that this is part of the journey. I don't think about it too much. I try and view it as, wow, this is so fascinating. My brain is so fascinating. And I think that's a conscious choice in one way, but also a choice that is easy for me to make at this stage. As I progress, that might not be the case. And it's not easy. Like sometimes I'll wake up at night, not able to swallow my own saliva. So things like that really do freak me out and worry me, but I only can do what I can do. It is what it is.
Yeah. Come on, Maddie.
Yeah.
Go for it, mate.
No, I think I'm super lucky actually, because growing up, I was always encouraged to get involved in so many different things. Like I was in a choir, I had speech and language lessons and drama lessons. I read out in front of the school. I think I invented walking football. It wasn't supposed to be walking football, but I was that slow. I struggled to run with the ball. So, and I played table tennis, and I biked, and I did as much outdoor activities because I didn't want to miss out. I think if FOMO is a real word, I grew up with my Parkinson's having real bad FOMO. I didn't care that I was rubbish at things. I just wanted to get involved, and it's like I love football or soccer, but my favourite position was in goal, and I used to end up doing the most spectacular dives to save the ball. But unfortunately, the ball had often gone in the back of the net before I'd finished my dive. So, but having said that, I've always done things, and I think that's helped. I've always embraced going out. So, I love being with different people. I love I'm not, Parkinson's has never really embarrassed me, which is super important, I think, because I know for many people, it can be so embarrassing when you're twitchy or you're dyskinetic or you're staggering around and people stare at you. Because of the nature of who I was as a child, it's never bothered me. And I think that's helped the progression being slower because I've never, and also I think Jeff and she, as you know, I, I'm a big fan of humor as well. And from a very, very early age, people used to call, I mean, one of the guys at school used to call me Eeyore, which I found really funny because I liked Winnie the Pooh, and Eeyore was a slow moving animal. And also, I used to be called Flatley as well, as in Michael Flatley, the Irish dancer, because my legs used to move. And I think that helps me cope because people treat, I was accepted. Do you know what I mean? I was accepted by the community. So I think now I'm still the same person. I still work and what have you. Obviously, things have progressed, but I I don't let it. I always let people see the authentic me. That makes sense. So I don't sort of try and
Absolutely.
hide stuff. And I find people take the mickey just as I would do with them. I think a lot of it's to do with accepting who you are and being happy with who you are, but also and just taking part. I think I've been through the angry phase over the years, and to be quite honest, if you, I mean, I've got, as you know, I don't know whether, as you know, I've got plenty of tattoos on my arms. There is a reason for this because I went through a phase of not liking myself very much, and these tattoos actually cover the some bad times that I had. But hey, I took a vow to be positive, and it actually helps me so much as in my life and everything. People quite often will say, "Why are you so happy?" When people have got Parkinson's, and I said, it's pretty naff being sad and down. I don't like it. so, so yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a bit of a ramble, I'm afraid, but I hope it kind of some point.
Look, there's one word that you both raised there. I think is extremely important in coping with Parkinson's. That's acceptance.
Yeah,
And for me, I came to believe after quite a while, there's two stages to acceptance. There was acceptance from the medical people that you had Parkinson's. So you're accepting that you have a condition and it's called Parkinson's. The one that takes a lot longer is accepting it into your life, which you just spoke about, uh,
yeah,
Matt. And Alison Anderson, who was a World Parkinson's ambassador with me for Barcelona Congress, phrased it perfectly. I believe what we're in the discussion, and I knew what we were talking about, but she put it in more simplistic terms. She decided that instead of saying, I've got Parkinson's disease, she says, I'm living with James. So she named it after James Parkinson's. So so James is part of her life, and 3 or 4 of us adopted this during the ride to Barcelona, and we'd be sitting in a restaurant and having dinner or lunch or something, and we'd be talking about, or breakfast in particular, and you say, well, how's, because you're about to head off on a 100-kilometre, 60, 70-mile ride or something. How's James today? Oh, James is annoying. He's just not interested today. He doesn't want to go. And somebody else go, oh, my James seems to be okay. And people would be hearing us, and they come across, because everyone's talking about their James and this annoying friend they've got. And they come across and say, oh, look, sorry, but, you're talking about James. That must be a terrible person. Obviously, they're not here. You go, oh, no, they're here. No, Alison's James is here. My James is here. James is here. And they go and look at you and go, yeah, well, James is in me. James is part of me. So all of a sudden, I think they thought we had like split personality disorder or something. We weren't Parkinson's. So, that's a funny side of living with Parkinson's. But I think that's pretty important. You guys agree, Sri? Would you agree?
Well,
Acceptance is
I can
really
agree that
part.
I've always wanted I can agree that I've always wanted a James to live with me, but I was imagining James Bond. Like James Bond would be my boyfriend.
Yeah.
That's who I was going for. In terms of acceptance, it's interesting what you say, because I've accepted and then I've not accepted. I cannot say I've 100% accepted it. I still live in this world sometimes when I wake up and I get emotional. I don't quite cry, but I just get sad and confused or befuddled. And I'm wondering, why me? How did I get this disease? Do I really have it? Like, it happens sometimes. So I can't say that I fully accepted it. I think it's a conversation that I have with myself 24/7, 365. Some days I don't think about having Parkinson's. Some days I do think about it. Some days I just want to cry and cry. And I don't think I've actually cried other than the 2 days after I got diagnosed, because I'm worried that if I do cry, I will never stop, So there is that. But the thing is, overall, I think I have a pretty happy attitude. My friends have all been great. I know I've heard of people losing friends and having people in their lives drift away. And I haven't had that yet. I think I'm very lucky in that regard. And I think that's part of what keeps me slow progressing, as my doctor says. Even though I think I'm progressing very quickly, my doctor says, no, you're not, you're progressing slowly. It's because I've surrounded myself with people who will like drive 30 miles or 45 miles to walk with me every day. Having a really good support system like that is vital. And I'm also lucky because I have my parents. So while I'm single without kids, I cannot say I'm doing this alone. I have my parents, I have my friends. And the other thing is, I also have my dad who has Parkinson's disease. He was diagnosed about 7 years after I was. And for him, I see that he struggles with acceptance. So I have to tell him, Dad, you're on the step stool. You're not supposed to climb on step stools anymore. And I have to keep reminding him, and he still struggles with, I don't know if it's a guy thing, a human thing, a generational thing. Whatever thing it is, he cannot accept that he has Parkinson's. He still kind of believes that he doesn't have it. And that's not a problem, believing you don't have it, as long as you take your medication and don't climb on stools. Both of which he does. He forgets to take his medication and he still climbs on stools. So it's a journey. Acceptance is very much a journey.
Oh, absolutely. Totally agree. Yeah. I think, I think an important question here to ask today too, because we do have Shri and Matt, is about gender. There's got to be some differences here between, and I think it's become a really important focus in the last few years about the difference between Parkinson's for particularly for men and women. And it's not just a difference in age anymore. It's young onsets or elderly being diagnosed was seen as a different progression. But I think there's a world of difference between gender.
Do you want to go, Shri? I think, or do you want me
Yeah,
to?
I can speak to that.
This is your bag. This is definitely.
Yeah, I think when they mean differences in gender, a lot of the times it's referring to the differences that women experience. I'm not sure on the research if men experience anything just because they're men. For women, we definitely experience things just because we're women. A lot of it is surrounding hormones and our menstrual cycle. And hormones play a big deal. It's something that my neurologist very rarely talks to me about. And I love my neurologists. They are fantastic, wonderful. But menstruation, hormones, and Parkinson's was never raised to me. I had to raise that to my neurologist. And the way it happened is I started noticing I'd get fatigued to the point where I would just collapse in bed and could not move. And I thought, this is very strange. Why is this happening? I understand regular Parkinson's fatigue, but this seems something other. And then I started tracking it, and I noticed it happened around the time I'd get my period every single month. And then I went to my neurologist and I asked, hey, is there a correlation between Parkinson's and symptoms and menstrual cycles or hormones? And they said yes. And I'm like, yes? Do you have any more information? Can you tell me anything else? Like, why didn't you tell me this before? And I think one of the reasons it wasn't brought up before is because while they say that women have less chance of getting Parkinson's disease, 4 out of 10 people are women who get Parkinson's disease. Out of the people who get Parkinson's disease, that is, 4 out of 10 are women. And also, it's not common for young women to get the disease. So maybe if you're dealing with patients or people with Parkinson's, you're dealing with an older range of an older demographic who have gone through menopause and are only getting Parkinson's in their 40s or 60s. I mean, sorry, 50s or 60s or 70s. So there's not a lot of research done on women, young women, and Parkinson's disease. Very little is done. I know I have a lot of friends who are doing this research right now. But the one thing that needs to be understood is there's a huge impact on the quality of life of a woman with Parkinson's disease and how that disease relates to her hormone cycle, menstruation, perimenopause, menarche, all that stuff. And it cannot be overstated how important that research is and talking to a neurologist about those conditions are. Because for me, it affects my dyskinesia. It's worse when I get my period. My thinking is slower. Everything is just slower. Like it goes from like being molasses to being like, there's no molasses coming out of that tree. It's just stuck. Like the sap has stopped coming out.
I'm guessing that's going to be very true for the menopausal and pre and peri and postmenopausal women as well. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
I mean,
I will say that I joked with my friends who've been through menopause. I'm like, guys, I cannot wait to get to menopause. And they just looked at me and they're like, Shri, menopause with Parkinson's sucks. You do not want to go there. Enjoy this. And I'm like, oh, great. I have something worse to look forward to. That's fantastic.
from a male perspective as well, it's not just it's how you look as well. I mean, goodness knows why I still shave with a razor blade. I have cut myself on countless occasions,
Oh.
and it's ridiculous. I cut myself here, on my lip, on my chin, but I still insist on shaving. And for many years I had like a goatee beard, but sometimes just when it was usually when it was looking quite good, I'd twitch when I was shaving and half of it would come off. So I'd try and level it out on the other side, and it would end up all coming off because I could never be happy. But I'm guessing, I mean, that's a male issue, but of course, women putting makeup on is an issue as well. I mean,
Well, I
I
just have to
people,
say really quickly, Matt, that when I shave my chin, I also get Nixon's creeps too. It
yeah.
happens to me as well. I just want to throw that out there.
Well, no, that's fine, but I couldn't imagine putting mascara on, or eyeshadow or being able to brush. I mean, I'm fortunate I haven't got any hair to brush, or not much anyway anymore. But I mean, even getting the right hairstyle. I mean,
Actually, that's
people,
a very good point that you raise.
yeah, because
It's
people
something
don't
that I
realize
think,
it's a thing.
yeah, I think it's something that not many women bring up per se, because I know that some women feel it's kind of like silly or minuscule to bring up, but your appearance and how you present yourself to the world makes a huge impact on how you interact with people. And it can affect
Exactly,
your
yeah.
mood, it can affect your happiness level, the way you engage with yourself and the way you engage with family, the way you engage with colleagues. So yeah, I used to do makeup for brides and grooms, not grooms. I would love to do it for a groom, for brides. And I am no longer able to do that because I just don't have the steadiness of hand. And now I actually have reduced my makeup to basically just powder and a pencil liner, because I'll hold it up to my face and I keep poking my eye. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, I'm going to poke up my eye one day, especially if you're using sharp tweezers. Very dangerous to use close to your face when you're dyskinetic. So I've
Yeah.
had to make a lot of adjustments. I actually started shaving my hair before I got Parkinson's, but I continued shaving it after I got Parkinson's because it was so difficult for me to blow dry my hair and just hold it up and go like this and do all that work for the hair. It just got exhausting for me. But then the
So,
mistake I made is realizing after I shaved my head, I have to continue shaving it and do the
yeah.
hand up there as well. So that was a bit problematic.
But
Yeah, look,
so I was going to add, Jeff, I mean, going to the hairdressers must be a real problem as well. I mean, just for me, fortunately, my wife, my gorgeous wife, Viv, is an ex-hairdresser, and I don't need much styling anyway. But occasionally, when she does, she's like, I'm not this Connecticut. I end up with half a cut, a shaved head, and half sort of not massively curly, but a lot longer. And that's me as a guy, but I can imagine that being a woman, and if you've got long, beautiful locks or even short hair, it could be a real issue just trying to sit still in the chair. And that can affect your self-esteem tremendously, I'm quite sure.
Right. One of the other
oh,
things that is a gender difference is the way we have to go to the bathroom. So with women and men, there's obviously a difference. And with men, you're gonna have to tell me, Matt, I think it's much easier for men to go urinate than it is for women. And
Not now,
so,
it isn't. Believe me,
no.
not now.
Hey, sweet. That's one thing with Parkinson's. I spend a lot more time sitting on a toilet than I do facing a urinal. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, yeah, it's yeah, and that's for yeah, obvious reason. Well, yeah, no, yeah,
yeah, I mean, the one thing I found that I find very difficult to do is when you have to go to the bathroom as a woman, you have to unzip, unbutton, then pull
yeah,
down two things, your jeans or your pants, and then your underwear,
yeah.
right? I used to be able to do them both at the same time. Now I cannot. And so
No,
also if you're wearing a long shirt, you've got to pull up the shirt, and this is true for men and women. You have to pull up the shirt, then unbutton and zip. And those extra seconds make a huge difference because bladder control is less.
yeah,
You have
no,
to urinate more
totally
frequently,
agree.
urinate more easily. So I started wearing tops that are not quite crop tops, the tops that just come up right to the waistband of my pants. So I don't have to pull anything up. And so I can quickly unzip and do my business. But those little things make a huge difference because an extra second out there and you could be urinating not on the toilet, but in your
Yeah,
hallway, you know?
yeah, no, I totally get that. And sorry, again, super quickly, one thing that, and I'm sorry, I hope people don't find this inappropriate, but the number of times we have to change our toilet seat because I've wriggled about so much that it's smashed off the hinges. It's ridiculous. Anybody who thinks that doing uroblutions with Parkinson's is easy is very sadly mistaken. Sorry, I
oh,
put
Yeah, no, I actually, it's interesting that you point that out. I've noticed that. And also culturally, there's something that happens too. And this is going to be, once again, a little TMI. But, you know, when you have to clean yourself,
Yep.
in my culture, we never use our right hand. We always use our left hand. And so because my left hand is the tremor dominant hand, and when my Parkinson's first started, sometimes I have to use my right hand. And I
Yep.
felt guilty over that. And it brought me like a lot of shame that I couldn't follow what my culture does. And in the end, I just had to be like, this is what it is. I have to accept it. Some things I'm just going to have to do with my right hand that I used to do with my left hand.
That is something that is incredibly brave of you to share, Sri, but it must be a real issue for so many people.
Yeah. Look, you touched on something there, Matt, about shaving. So one of the things for me, I have the same thing. You know, you go in, you're going out for dinner with the family. So I go in, have a shower and shave, and there's cut. So I just
Yeah.
stick little bits of toilet paper over the cuts,
Yep.
and then just walk out of the bathroom and say, I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's go. And and of course, you quickly that you get the stares of, really, you're not going out like that, are you?
And you go, yep.
But
I am.
no, we were talking. We've spoken a lot about there's a funny side. There's a humor of Parkinson's. It's not all just serious. You can't take yourself 100% serious having Parkinson's. There's things that happen for you day to day, and you've got to enjoy the stupidity of Parkinson's. The
Yep.
funny side, the humor, and
Yeah, I'm the mixologist in my family now. So they're like, hey, can you shake this margarita mix for me? Like, you guys are just, I mean, my
I mean,
brothers, my cousin brothers, they are full of jokes. And it honestly doesn't offend me at all. It just makes me laugh. And laughter is what I need when it comes to Parkinson's disease. I mean, it's something that lightens it up. It makes me look at the funniness and the reality and the silliness and just the complexity of what we face. And it brings me joy. And if you grew up with brothers, you know that many brothers are great at teasing constantly. So they've just taken what they used to make fun of me before, being short. So now they make fun of me with Parkinson's disease.
well,
I
sorry, I always think that people with Parkinson's, with the tremor and dyskinesia, the body movement, we must be great cocktail makers.
absolutely. No,
Yeah, I
it's
think
very true.
one of our fellow YOPDers, her name is Amber. She has a TikTok channel, and she makes this joke that she doesn't need any vibrating toys anymore because her hand does just as well.
No,
Yeah, look,
we laugh, but these are the things that the subjects that people never touch on. But they're an integral part of they're an integral part of everybody's life.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. And some people are too frightened to broach the subject. But for many people, and particularly for people with Parkinson's, they can become like a real issue. I think it's
Right.
super important to be, like you say, Jeff, not take yourself too. I know it's super difficult. I mean, I've never taken myself too seriously. Hence, that I often wear my t-shirt. Am I allowed to say what goes on my t-shirt, Eli? By the way, in the background.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
All right, yeah,
It is you. Anyone who doesn't know what's on your t-shirt doesn't
yeah,
know you or seen
yeah.
you ever.
One of the most engaging pieces of clothing I have ever worn anywhere is "I'm not pissed, I've got Parkies," and people really engage with me. They come up to me smiling and say, "Really, you're not drunk?" I say, "No, I'm not. Just read it. I'm exactly as it says on the t-shirt." And that is it's like an icebreaker. People can read it
Yeah.
as I'm staggering down the street. And I think it's so important, the fact that we try not to be embarrassed, and people who stare aren't necessarily being rude. They might be concerned about their own personal safety, or they might think that you're going to attack them, or you might knock them off the pavement or whatever. And I think So it's important to listen. It's okay. I've got Parkinson's. I don't actually know which way I'm going to move next, and that completely disarms the general public, and they're fine.
Yeah, look, I did a similar thing on the ride to Barcelona. You know, I grew my hair long and I had it dyed 8
Yeah,
different colors in patches on my head.
yeah,
And that was an icebreaker. You know, I was walking around fairly conservative areas in the UK, and people would be staring at you like the hair, but people would ask, they'd go, "What's with the hair?" And then you'd turn around and say, "Well, this is what we're doing." And so it opened up that door to talking about and raising awareness of Parkinson's. So yeah, I'm not saying everyone get their hair dyed, but don't be embarrassed about who you are. I mean, Parkinson's isn't defining you. Parkinson's isn't your life. You've got a whole lot of life out there, you know,
yeah.
you've got family. I mean, I'm just about to become a granddad. You reckon in the next
Way.
1 or 2 days, do you think that Parkinson's is high on my list of focus at the minute? No. Oh, it is at the minute, of course, because I'm talking here. But we've got to live life, and like we were saying about acceptance and bringing it into your life, it's only just part of it. You got to live, and and you've got to enjoy. I mean, even the symptoms. Parkinson's took away my sense of smell very early. But then Parkinson sort of had a joke on me. It gave me back one sense of smell, dog poo.
Oh dear.
Not only, and super strong. I can smell dog poo from 30 or 40 meters away. I can ring up my
And you know
neighbor
what, Jeff?
and say,
That's gonna help you when
your
you
dog just went to the
change the
toilet
diapers of
in
your
your back
grandchildren.
left-hand corner of your backyard. I mean, yeah, am I bemoaning that? No. Do I still step in it? Absolutely. But yeah, it's cool. But yeah, I think you're right, Matt. And Shree's definitely spoken about that with her family and friends. It's very important
Jeff?
Well,
Can I
to
just?
live.
thing I can say is the one thing I can say is I'm doing more now in my life with Parkinson's than I did before. I'm actually pushing myself harder to do things uh, before when I would not. I started becoming more integrated with the photography world and took on a job as a visual journalist where I have to go into situations with lots of people, and that could affect my balance and height and stuff. And I did that. And recently I applied for a job where I'm going to be traveling a lot more, going to a lot more conferences, interfacing with people, speaking a lot more directly to customers and to clients in a kind of hybrid sales position. And I thought, God, should I not do this because I have Parkinson's? And I thought, no, I'm going to maximize every bit of my life I have
Yep.
and do everything I want to do, even though I have this disease. And this disease is going to come right along with me, and I'm just going to have to explain what it is to people if they encounter me. And I actually think that's a better way sometimes to be an ambassador for this disease, to bring awareness to it, is to live your life as you would always want to live it. You live it to the fullest, and then you just don't let Parkinson's get in your way. And when it does, then you do what you need to do to get your rest and to take care of yourself. And then when you are able to move, you move and you grow and you do things. I don't think there's anything that says you cannot do X, Y, and Z because you have Parkinson's. I think a lot of those rules are a little bit outdated. I mean, of course, you should check with your doctor and your physical therapist and all the people as part of your medical team. But I think a lot of the advice we get is meant for people who have the disease who are older. And if you're young and still working and still mobile, which many people are, young or old, do it. I mean, there's so much life to live with this disease that I think it would be a shame to have people stop what they're passionate about just because they have Parkinson's disease.
Yeah. And I know for my part, I've changed my life completely with Parkinson's. I've learned how to ride cycle, ride a bike, and last year rode 2,200 kilometers from UK to Barcelona. So would I have done that when I didn't have Parkinson's? No. I wouldn't have even thought about that. And then, there's many other things. And I think, Sri, you just touched on an important part, and we've got a question coming in. Uh, it's about interacting with other people who don't know you've got Parkinson's, and do you actually care at the attitude they're taking, or do you, want to sort of preempt people looking at you? I know Matt's touched on that a little bit, but how do you deal with people who, is it important to talk about to people who don't know you about your Parkinson's? How do you interact with those people?
Like for me, I go about it two different ways. If they bring it up, I will talk about it, but I also don't feel the need to bring it up just on my own. So for example, I was at two conferences lately, one in Chicago, one in Atlanta, where I was on my feet 12, 16 hours a day, talking to people, networking, doing all that sort of thing. I was dyskinetic in moments. I had my face freeze in moments. My word finding was impacted. I got dry mouth and couldn't get words out. All of those things happened when I was talking to these people. I didn't notice anyone looking at me oddly or differently, maybe just because I'm clueless, but nobody raised a question or anything. If somebody had, I definitely call their attention to Parkinson's disease, but I also don't want to drop it just kind of like casually into the conversation. Oh yeah, by the way, I have Parkinson's disease. Because a lot of people don't know what that means. They're like Parkinson's. And then I have to take the time to explain it to them. And sometimes I don't have that time. So if there is an opportunity and the conversation allows that kind of topic to occur, I will go there. Otherwise, I'm just living my life doing what I'm doing, and they're living life doing what they're doing.
That's so interesting, because I always get it's all right, I've got Parkinson's. If you see me spill stuff or fall over, it's not good. So I always, it doesn't matter where I am, could be at a football match, could be anywhere. I always say, if you see me walking funny, don't worry, unless I fall over. I might need a bit of help. But for me, that makes me feel more comfortable from the start. And quite often that'll be fine. That they'll say, okay, Parkinson's. I'll say Michael J. Fox or Muhammad Ali or whoever it might be. And that's good enough for them. So it's good enough for me. It just puts them at ease. I think a lot of it's people's own concern for their personal safety, or perhaps yours. So I always get my excuses in before, so they are aware. And it's interesting, like you say, Sri, that you do. Sometimes, however, people say, "Oh, it's all right. Don't worry. Doesn't matter about your Parkinson's," but it makes me personally feel better if I let people know first.
Yeah, and I think it's a situation thing too. It depends. You've got to read the crowd,
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Sometimes, you don't want the first conversation you have with someone to be about Parkinson's.
No.
You want to talk about your day. You want to talk about your football team. You want to talk about your family. You want to talk about them. But I don't think we need to hide about it. And Sri, you touched on something really important. People either don't know about what PD is, or they have a misconception about Parkinson's. I don't know how many times I've spoken to people or told people I got Parkinson's, and they look at you and go, "You sure you got Parkinson's? Because my uncle had Parkinson's, and when he was 80, and you don't have, a bad tremor, and you don't walk like he." And it's like, wait a minute, there's different types, and all of a sudden you know, there you've got to destroy some of the misconceptions that people might have about you. And it's got to be about your Parkinson's, not the person down the road or your mate who's got Parkinson's. You're talking about the impact on you if you're going to talk to people. And I don't,
Right. Well, I kind of view it
hiding's
like,
not a good idea. I think we need, yeah, I love escalators now, because it does my head in, going up and down an escalator. To me, it's like going on, a ride at the fun park. The whole world starts, "Oh, yeah, this is good. It's the cheapest fun ride I ever get is doing that." And, people are like, they'll be wondering, why is this guy got a, he looks like he's about to fall off, but he's got this huge smile on his face. So I don't know, is he crazy? But yeah, I think that's pretty, and that, sorry, we're probably wrapping up real soon, but that important. I read a question pre Congress. It said, I'm early with diagnosis, I'm young, I'm not in a relationship. Should I go out and meet people, or should I just ride alone with this diagnosis? Should I be sharing with people? I know what my views are on that, but yeah.
You need plenty of personal assistance, Parkinson's assistance in your life. So it's always best to have a great team of people around you. I mean, I eventually got married. I've been married 10 years, but it was after I'd had deep brain stimulation, and I didn't go for it. You can, if anything, you can be more of a challenge, and more you can. People can come out, particularly with YOPD. People can be amazing characters, and I, for one, wouldn't be the person I am today without the support of the YOPD that I've met from all around the world. They've made me so much more confident, and given me the confidence to do what I do. So, yeah, go for it, I say.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
Matt,
look,
that means you're going to help me with my dating profile.
Yeah, I can do. Yeah, sure thing.
and you're right there, Matt. One of my biggest light ups was my first WPC Congress in Kyoto. That was the first time I was in a huge collective group of people with Parkinson's. And the people I've met, that transition has been the fastest in all my experience. From that, when I left Japan to come home, it was a different me. There was so much. I've got to learn this. I've got to contact them. I need to do this. I need to do that. It just was so enlightening. I thought I had the answers until I went to Kyoto. And where I am now, and the people I've met, I wouldn't have met you guys. I wouldn't be
Yeah,
I wouldn't be
exactly.
cycling to Barcelona. I wouldn't be doing any of that stuff I've done since. And I think that's what you said is really important. Don't live in isolation. You'll never get the answers. Get out there, join your PD groups, connect with other people. And I think that's really important because, a lot of the organizations are there to support us, and but not many of them have, within those organizations, have Parkinson's disease. So at best, they can have empathy about our symptoms. I don't know what it's like to get out of bed with them or travel up that escalator and do those sorts of things. So that support that comes through conferences, congresses, Parkinson's group is so important. And listening to crazy people like us, you've got to do that. Do you
I
agree?
don't think I would be as well adjusted with this disease if it was not for the World Parkinson Congress. I honestly don't think I'd be at
No,
the
I
place
agree.
where I am mentally, emotionally, physically, if it wasn't for WPC. I've been to 3 conferences. I went to one right after I was diagnosed in Portland. Then it was Kyoto, then Barcelona. And each time I built stronger and stronger relationships with my fellow people with Parkinson's.
Yep.
But I mean, you can't overstate this, but WPC is a huge gift to people with Parkinson's disease. It's been a huge gift in my life. And without the support of the WPC and everything that it does, I don't even know where I'd be today. I really don't.
Yeah.
Big hand for Eli and all the guys at the WPC, I think. Big up. Thank you, Eli. But also, before we finish, I'd like to say a huge thank you to the rest of the PD community for being so supportive of us all. And that's carers, that's healthcare professionals, everybody that's involved, people who care for people with Parkinson's as well, particularly. I wouldn't be where I am today without the support of my wife and partner. I just wouldn't be.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's a whole team effort.
Oh, absolutely. I heard once someone described it to me once saying that for every one person with Parkinson's, there's at least 10 others living with it.
Yeah,
And
totally.
that's you know, for us, I think that number's much higher than that. But that is so true, and that's dependent on you letting them in. They want to
Yeah,
help. People
yeah.
want you to help live the best life you can, and I think that's critically important. You know, you're not alone with this, and don't make it as big a deal. Yeah, yeah. No, it's cool. I'm not sure how much time we've got left, but
I think
we're just
we've
about to
just gone
finish. All
over, I
right.
think.
So thank you all for being here today. We've gone a little bit of overtime, but hey, look, you can't shut us up. We could talk for days on this. We've only just touched a little bit on it. Maybe we need to connect and have a chat room we can put out there or something every month or something, but let's go. So thank you all for joining us for this session. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Hope you at least got some support or some clarity on direction you need to go and help you live the best life you can. Reminder that all the presentations have been recorded and they will be available from Monday if you live in the Southern Hemisphere in Australia. Because we live in the future, that means they'll be available Tuesday. And please get onto those and have a look. Again, I'd like to thank Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma America for their support in this program. Absolutely fantastic to have. And before we sign off, just an invite to save the day for the 7th World Parkinson's Congress that will be running from May 27th, 24th to the 27th. I know it's a bit way off in 2026, but that'll be in Phoenix, Arizona in the US of A. And it's only run every 3 years. Get there, meet us. We'd love to chat. We'd like to hear your stories. Goodbye for now, and keep living the best life you can. Thank you.
Thank you.